Hey, this is the Clean Joseph Cooking Channel. We're back with another great recipe. Get out some pots, turn on that stove, and let's get rolling. I got this recipe from Josh Cordis on YouTube. Look him up. He's got some great recipes and videos. And I just like to show, how easy it is to meal prep and get cooking. So I use some grapeseed olive oil here. I'm trying to get away from using oil because apparently it's bad for you. Get some ground beef, whatever kind you like. Doesn't matter about the fat content. Try to get it from a local butcher if you can, so you can get some better meats. You just want to let the meat sit in the pan for a while, especially with ground beef. You don't want to flip it right away. Just want to let it sit, have it brown up, and have the fat build up in the pan. So let it sit for a couple of minutes before you flip for the first time. So we got some poblano peppers here. Technique I found that's good for cutting peppers is to cut off the top and the bottom and then cut a slit down the side. That way you can kind of peel out the core with all the seeds and throw that in the trash. And then you can kind of trim away the edges. Here we got our jalapeno. Cut technique is the same way as the poblano pepper. One thing to note is if you don't like spicy, make sure you get rid of all the seeds. And be careful about touching any part of your body or your eyes if your hands aren't covered, because you can burn yourself. Here we got our onion. We're just cutting it in half. And there's many techniques for cutting an onion depending on how you want it. I learned this one way from Jean-Pierre. Is you cut in half, you cut off both ends, and then you can peel off the skin. And then you want to kind of follow the onion. It has these lines. You can see in the video here now where they kind of narrow in on one end. So you just, so from the end where they narrow in on, that is going to be your little hump that you're not going to cut it off. From the other end, going from wide to narrow, you cut these lines, but don't cut all the way to the end of the onion. So it will still be held together. And of course, then you switch your cut horizontally to dice them.
Oh boy. I don't think that works, no? I don't think that's a good idea. It's not good.
I like to skin everything before I start cutting. So here I'm getting rid of the shells, if you want to call it, of the garlic. dude. Let me get off the fucking thing. Oh, Christ. Come on, man. So I already cut along those lines of the onion when I was switching the camera here. So I'm just cutting the opposite way already. I'll probably do a video of this for people who struggle. I'm just cutting the onion, but there's nothing too difficult about it. found the best way to mince garlic if you need it for your recipe. Just lump them all together and just start cutting them, or rock your blade up and down. Because it can get kind of annoying to try to chop all these little onion cloves. It's better just to mash them all together, just start chopping away mindlessly.
Why did you have to fucking... Oh.
Okay, and here we have the green onion becoming a favorite of mine because, you know, the bottom half of the green onion, the white part, you can just use as a milder onion in recipes. And the top half, the green, the leaves, you can cut off and kind of mince up and use as a garnish for your recipes. All right, and this whole time while you're cutting, your meat's been cooking. Probably a good time to flip it, or flip it again if you haven't already. can prep things for later when they're ready. It's a good kitchen skill to learn. So we have all these canned items, tomato sauce, your diced tomatoes. You want to get those cans open. Oh, and the beans. Here's a little technique I learned for washing your beans. You know, like all that preservative junk in the cans. If you get it in the can, you can kind of keep the lid on, fill it with water, and just kind of close it enough so you can kind of shake and rinse the beans. Now we're kind of making space in the center here of our pans for our seasoning to sit a little bit in the oils and fats before we mix it all together. These are your seasonings. For each 2 pounds, I split mine in half here. Use about a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Use 1 tablespoon cumin. 1 tablespoon smoked paprika. And 2 tablespoons of chili powder. Let that sit for 2 minutes or so in the oil, and then mix it in the meat. Next, you're going to want to get your onion, that green onion if you have it, your poblano peppers, and your jalapeno cooking for a few minutes. And then after it becomes nice and tender, you're going to add that garlic you cut up earlier, and you let that sit for another 2 minutes.
Okay. And some rice.
Add about a cup of rice.
Okay, that's a cup.
Make sure to mix it together and spread it in nicely. Okay, and for this next part, to keep it simple, you're going to add in your 1 can here of 29 ounces of tomato sauce. For this 1 2-pound portion, and of course another one to the other pot. And then 1 14.5-ounce can of petite diced tomatoes. I got these fire roasted ones. I would highly recommend them. They're delicious. And then originally I went with one can 15.5-ounce can of red kidney beans. But then I decided to go with 2. Since you're going to be eating this the whole week, maybe recipes like this that use beans or use olives or anything that's, great for your digestive tract can be kind of tricky thing to eat for the whole week. So if you're new to meal prepping and you make something like that for the week, find out what works for you. Usually I only go with 1 canned beans, even if I make 10 containers of these. But sometimes I risk it with 2. Here's the most important part, the beef stock. I just have the 1 container here. You find them in the store. It's the plastic tote one. It's about 32 ounces. I actually didn't leave enough space in my 1 pan here, so I switched it for another pot later on. What I learned from this is anytime you need to add broth or something to a recipe, don't add all of it right away. Go under what whatever the recipe calls for, because you can always add more later on. Because it's one of my half batches here, I got nice and thick, and the other one was too watery. So something to watch out for. So you just want to mix around as best as you can. That's why you got to make sure you have the right container. I spill a little bit here and there with this one. That's why I switched to the pot. And then we're bringing this up to a boil. Yeah, see, this one has a good boil going on right there. See the bubbles? Then you're going to bring it down to a low. And then you're going to cover it. We're going to cook it for about 30 minutes. You know, since I kind of added more broth, I added more cook time later on to evaporate more of that out to make it thicker. That's why it's better just to have less broth initially. You can see here, this one turned out really nice and thick. This one on the right, the one I switched out of that pan earlier. This one was a little bit too watery, so I ended up cooking it even more. But this one, look at this.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
This one is nice and thick. This one's still too watery.
Then I usually dish it out into about 10 containers for the week. 2 per day. And after dishing out your chili in each container, you can add your toppings. Add some cheddar cheese here. If you can get a fresh block and you have the time to shred a fresh cheddar cheese, it's always better. And since I eat the same thing for the whole week, sometimes I don't add all my toppings to every container to make it a little bit more varied. So as you'll see that I don't add the cheese to all the containers. And then you can add some sour cream to your containers as well for the chili. I actually grabbed some Dean's French onion dip because I just grabbed by accident, thought it was sour cream at the store. And to be honest, you know what? It's worth the try. It's part of the cooking is experimenting. So if you want a new flavor to try, I'd say give the French onion dip a mix a try. And the last thing we're adding here is the leaves from that green onion that I mentioned earlier. It just makes everything look all nicer. Get those containers in the fridge right away. Kind of keeping the food good for about 5 or 6 days, depending on when you cook these, is really pushing the boundaries of keeping it healthy. Last but not least, don't forget to clean up after you're done cooking. Helps to clean as you go if you can, while you have some downtime between cooking and cutting. Don't forget,
Sit. Stay.
have somebody try your cooking and see if they like it.
Stay. Stay. Right? You want it? Go get it. Good? Riley. Yeah, you liked it. Good boy.